Yo, welcome everybody back to another episode of whatever the heck this is called. It's just two
The day
guys linking up
after
talking Niners. The day after,
the
a couple days
the
after,
the day after the day.
the day after the day. That's what we're gonna go with today. That's spot on. That's money. Shameless plug before we get started. Wherever platform you're watching this off of, make sure you hit the like button because that's good for the algorithm. Make sure you comment as well. Comment with us throughout the show. And if you're not subscribed, I don't know what the hell you're doing at this point. If you're, continuing to watch these videos, make sure you subscribe. Jason, how you doing, my boy?
I'm good, man. 49ers have a big win, and they're on their way to the most important game of the season, which is something that it was hard to envision a few days ago. And a few days ago, a few weeks ago. Yeah, that's all you can really ask for. You're playing the Minnesota Vikings, and they're right in front of you, and the 49ers are back in the playoff hunt. It's good times around here.
Oh man, this playoff-like atmosphere that's going to happen on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings is going to feel amazing because that was actually the last time I was at a game in Levi's was that divisional round against the Vikings where I was kind of nervous, spending money out of pocket, going to the game, getting the tickets, playoffs. It's already ticked up a bit more than what everyone's saying through this regular season, and especially the season ticket holders, what they're saying through this regular season. So I was nervous on my way up there. Kirk Cousins, he's goofy looking, but he's a hell of a quarterback. Dalvin Cook, hell of a running back. They had Diggs at the time, hell of a receiver, as well as Thielen, hell of a receiver. But you take off a Diggs wide receiver and replace him with the Justin Jefferson. Okay, that works
Ridiculous.
out. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. I'm super excited. Let's see what happens. Let's talk about what has happened with the 49ers though. We're going to go ahead and finish the sentence. So I'm going to ask you to finish these sentences here, as well as you guys comment in the comment section to finish the sentence as well. This version of Jimmy Garoppolo will
win ball games. I mean, and that's the best way to put it. And I mean, I don't know what people expect, or if they're expecting something that Jimmy.
Sorry, I was muted. While Jason gets reconnected here, it's his computer just shut off. He texted me. This version of Jimmy Garoppolo will win ball games, is what Jason was saying, which is absolutely true. This 49ers team went in a 4-game losing streak. Horrendous. Did not look good at all. Particularly the quarterback position. I think we're getting Jason back very soon. And now these past 4 games, Jimmy Garoppolo has turned it on a different switch. He doesn't look like the guy the first, what was it? If I do quick math here, the Andrew Pasquini special, the first 6 ball games of the season, he looks like a different quarterback these last 4. And in those 4 games, this 49ers team is actually 3-1. Go ahead and continue, Jason, now that you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell happened. My computer just turned off and turned right back on and put me right back in the stream. It was very weird. Never happens. What I was saying is I don't understand what people want from Jimmy Garoppolo, right? I mean, the offense is doing what they're doing in terms of just straight up being efficient, winning the game, never putting him in a position to put too much on his plate. Because let's be honest, you shouldn't be putting it all on your quarterback regardless of who it is. I mean, that's just how it is, right? Especially when you're talking about like straight up like Jimmy Garoppolo, who is just efficient, man. He's just been efficient. He's been fine. I don't understand what people want. As long as the 49ers are winning ball games, you're just nitpicking for no reason. If you want to be concerned that game scripts won't flow this way, because they won't. Nothing is perfect in the NFL. You can't just keep doing the things over and over. That's fine. But to nitpick the way that he's been playing and the way that this team has been winning, that's different. Like, I don't think that you can really do that. So I think that he's been fine. He'll win ball games this way, and that's it. That's all you really need.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, the way he's been playing, they've been 3-1, and that one loss was against the Colt McCoy Arizona Cardinals. We know who Jimmy Garoppolo is. We don't expect him to be this, Aaron Rodgers like quarterback, but what he did in that game was more than enough to win them that game. Defense was disgusting. Turnovers didn't help. So we could have been saying this was a 4-0 stretch, and I expect them to go and continue to a 4-1 phase over these next 5 games after beating the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and say that prediction way too soon here on a Tuesday. Let's jump to the next one. What Kyle, as in Kyle Shanahan, what Kyle has shown us the past weeks is
what we expected going into the season. This is what we thought the 49ers would be. And again, throw the opponents out. It's the way that they're running their offense. It was always going to be ground and pound, control the clock, defense holds it down, efficient throws, just making sure that you're scoring touchdowns. That's the one thing that I could say that has improved. Obviously, the red zone attempts aren't where you want, but when you're scoring at the highest level that they are right now in the red zone, that's all you can really ask for. So I thought that this team was going to be doing all season, basically running the shit out the ball and just continuing to bludgeon teams. And now you're seeing it in these last 2 weeks. So I think that these past few weeks is what we expected going into the season.
Yeah, and I think it's what it shows is that he's still learning. He's still learning. I don't care what year this is on the job for him. To say Bill Belichick's not still learning with the New England Patriots that's a false narrative. So what it shows is Kyle's still learning. He's getting back to his roots. Whatever they tried just wasn't working. Run the ball, time management, take care of the ball, keep your defense on the sideline, and that's what they're doing. So just get back to that winning formula. Kyle, you're still learning. I get it. Let's keep it going now. Let's not take a step back. Let's keep it going. People were concerned if this 49ers team was going to find their footing for this season. Even if they were going to find it next season under Kyle Shanahan. But Kyle Shanahan showed he could still do the job. He's still learning by going back to the basics. That's key. Going back to the basics, running the ball first in this offense. And hell, he didn't even have Jeff Wilson Jr. average 3 yards per carry, as you see on the bottom ticker. It was 2.6 average. Kyle Shanahan still gave him 19 carries. Yeah. So he's sticking to his guns. He didn't abandon it too early. Who knows? I still expect them to win that game against the Jaguars, but you just never know in a different reality if Kyle Shanahan just got away from the run real quick and things didn't turn out that way. Time of possession is a little different, but I like what we're seeing. Let's keep it going. This is the winning formula. Let's talk about someone that's a big piece of that winning formula. Huge piece of that winning formula. Deebo Samuel will make.
People talk about him in the MVP discussion. Okay. And when I say it, obviously we all know the quarterback award. So for everybody on Twitter who's like, well, wide receivers never. I didn't say win. I didn't say win. I said discuss. And when you listen to what the term MVP actually is, most valuable, where on earth would this team be without Deebo Samuel? That's my point about most valuable, right? You're not getting what you're getting from Jeff Wilson. Guess what? The best running back on the field was Deebo Samuel. And that's invaluable. And he was 21 yards away from getting to 1,000. We all predicted, he'll have it by the first quarter.
No. Wait. Excuse me, 1,000 receiving yards. I thought you were talking about fell short of 100 rushing yards in that single game. Yeah. My bad. Go ahead.
So, no, you're good. 21 away from 1,000. We all assumed that he was going to get that in the first quarter. But curveball, guess what? He's the running back now, and the most efficient one. And that's what makes him so invaluable. That's what makes him so valuable I should say that. So again, you need to discuss him. He's not going to win it. Tom Brady's going to win it. Tom Brady's going to win the MVP, and nobody will have a problem with that, anything like that. He would have a much better chance at winning Offensive Player of the Year, which we have to continue to see how it's playing out. But yeah, he's up there. But when I talk about him being in the MVP discussion, it's because if you took Deebo Samuel away from this team, they have about 2 or 3 less losses. Let's just keep it a buck. And the Chicago game, he literally saved the season.
You were there.
Yes. Yes, and that's when like I looked over and I said, "Yo, did he just save the season?" Because the offense was stuck in neutral
Mhm.
and literally just a swing pass on a 3rd and 20 that was supposed to just get a few yards to give some room for Mitch to punt. He literally takes it to the crib basically and changes that whole game and changes basically. Obviously, they lose the next week against Arizona, but that win springboarded them because they've won 3 or 4, and that includes one of those.
So right now, Debo Samuel is second in receiving yards per game. He's only behind Cooper Cup, and that and that's because Cooper Cup gets a crazy amount of volume over there with the Rams, and especially with Robert Woods gone and Odell trying to pick up that offense. That volume is not going to go away anytime soon. But what if I asked you this, and I finished this sentence, and I'm going to put this on you: Debo Samuel will make first team All Pro.
Yes, I mean, right now, it would be him and Cooper Cup that would be the 2 wide receivers to start. I mean, at this point, right? I mean,
Right.
unless Justin Jefferson continues his tear that he's on, but right now, all-purpose yards, he's second behind Jonathan Taylor. And
Mm-hmm.
when I say all-purpose yards, that's rushing, obviously, and that's also kickoff returns and everything else that he does. And
Mm-hmm.
he also leads the league in yards per touch. And that's just again, when you really think about the way that he's getting the ball behind the line of scrimmage, on jet sweeps, just handoffs, for him to continue to do that, I think that just strengthens his case more than anything.
I think I saw a stat. I forgot who it was. It was from a tweet. It was a super analytical stat that Debo Samuel had more rushing yards above expected in that Jaguars game, like per rush. So in those 8 carries, than Jonathan Taylor did, and Jonathan Taylor obviously went off against the Buffalo Bills. And yeah, that could vary, up and down depending on the carries that Debo got. But this guy's a wide receiver. That's insane. I don't care if it was just 8 carries. If he's averaging more than what Jonathan Taylor was, that just shows what the special talent he is. And I was talking with our guy Javi Vega during our podcast that was released today on Niners Nation. It's that seeing Tavon Austin on that field, what Debo Samuel is doing is what everybody thought Tavon Austin was going to be.
Absolutely. And that's kind of when we were talking about the Jaguars game, is like Laviska Shenault's another guy on the other side that they thought would be something like that, but that ended up
He
being Jamal Agnew.
he said it. He said it in the pre-draft because I think he was trying to go to the Niners in that, where he goes, "Oh, who do you compare your game to?" And Laviska Shenault said, "I compare myself to Debo. I think I can beat Debo in the NFL," and which is basically saying that he loves Kyle Shanahan. So I think he was trying to pitch himself to the Niners. But yeah, it's Jamal Agnew who's now on the IR for the 40, or excuse me, Jaguars.
Unfortunately, I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's funny because that's exactly what they want Laviska to be, and they were running that with Agnew, and that's really funny that he actually compared himself to Debo because they do kind of mirror each other with their skill sets.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do think they need to get this guy back
Mm-hmm.
if they're going to make a push.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers are blank without Elijah Mitchell.
Less explosive. I mean,
Okay.
he for all the talk about his vision, and yes, obviously that has to improve for somebody who wasn't supposed to be the starter, 6th rounder. It was supposed to be somebody who was going to be, just a toss in at the, in the middle of the season, right? So week 1 he comes in, and when you watch the film, sometimes there's places where he could take the runs, and he said so himself, and so did Bobby Turner. But he's improved that so much, and I think that what he's doing right now, or what he did. The Rams game, he had, what was it, about 21 touches or something like that for 90 something yards, right? Like that's not really gonna blow you away, right? But what I was impressed with was in between the tackles was an outside zone, so they're using him however they can to attack whatever defense the right way. Okay, because that wasn't the way that they wanted to attack the Rams. They wanted to keep him in between the tackles, and he was up to the task. Now, weeks prior, it was all outside zones, tosses, things like that. So, I mean, I just think that it's less explosive because, I mean, I never really liked the mini Mostert comparison because nobody's as fast as Mostert. Nobody has his vision. Nobody has his put your foot in the ground and cut. I think that's disrespectful to him. But they do miss that sort of explosion that Mostert gives and that Mitchell gives, because he's clearly the one who is the fastest running back in this room.
Yeah, and I think that comparison gets made just because he's the closest version of what they could possibly get from a Raheem Mostert. Trey Sermon's not going to give you that version. Jeff Wilson Jr. is not going to give you that version. Even Jermichael Hasty's not going to give you that version. So Elijah Mitchell gives you that best version to replace a Raheem Mostert. Now, I would be lying if I said the 49ers are limited without Elijah Mostert or Elijah. Look at what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. You guys got me. Without Elijah Mitchell, if I said that week 1, I would have been lying. But now that we're on to week 12, I think the 49ers are limited without Elijah Mitchell. I think you could get away against a Jaguars team with Jeff Wilson Jr. averaging 2.6 yards per carry, with Trey Sermon averaging 3 yards per carry, not much better than that. And Debo essentially he enhances what that ground game looks like against the Jaguars, because without his 80 some rushing yards, we're talking about a sub 80 performance from the running backs, sub 80 yards on the ground. So I do think they are a little bit limited without an Elijah Mitchell. I did see you put out a tweet saying no to Philip Lindsay.
No,
but oh my God, I'm a little intrigued. I'll leave it at that.
That's not a need for the 49ers at this
It's not.
point.
It's absolutely not. It's not.
That's what I mean. Like, Elijah Mitchell's going to be back. It's not a need. That's my point, less than anything. It's not about the player. It's just he's not a need. Obviously, the need was to go ahead and add Devin Funches to the practice squad. Lord help us. But no, that's what I meant. It's nothing against the player. It's just that's not a need right now. This isn't fantasy football, and I love the 49er fan base, man. But anytime anybody gets ever cut, it's like, man, go bring him in. Bro, you don't need Philip Lindsay. He's not going to offer anything else, and he needs to be able to pass block.
Don't say this is not fantasy football, because guess what I did? As soon as they shipped off Ingram to basically to the Saints, when they traded Ingram to the Saints, guess what I did? I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick up Philip Lindsay because he could potentially get something out of this Texans offense. I dropped him in like a week.
Free fantasy football advice. That pickup this week is David Johnson. This is where we're at right now. David Johnson and yeah, exactly. David Johnson is the preferred pickup this week, and God help us all in fantasy football land.
Yeah, and then Adrian Peterson, RIP, his fantasy value, he's gone. I had Derrick Henry go out for my team, so I had a scramble. I had Ridley, do what was right for him and step away from the Falcons. So I'm trying to replace that as well. But hey, I got Brandon Ayuk in the process on a cheap deal, so we'll go with that. Hey, at least I won something.
There you go, and the cheap deal. There you go.
For an RB2,
Nice.
Got him. Someone's handcuff.
Nice.
Let me ask you this though: 49ers defense shown they are blank because we haven't spoke about them since the Cardinals game. Yeah. We haven't, and it was ugly. So let's finish this off.
Right now, what they're showing is that the 49ers defense has shown that they are improving. And all right, fine. Jaguars, whatever. Make your assumptions. But Tart's back. No explosive plays. They're finding ways to get Ufanga in there. Fred Warner gets a fumble recovery. Arden Key has been somebody that nobody's really talking about, which you can look at it two ways. And I'm not trying to be negative, but this is the way to look at it. I don't want Arden Key being the second best pass rusher on this line with Nick Bosa. No disrespect to him. But hey, 3 straight games with a sack, that's fine and everything. But if I had one concern with the defense, it would be they need to get home a little bit more. That's it. And it's not as much as the secondary as people think it is. I mean, Emmanuel Mosley's playing very well. And with Ward and Tart back there, I feel safe. Josh Norman is going to give up what he's giving up, but at least, I can say this, he punches the ball out. I mean, he's not completely killing this team. So I would say that they're improving and they're getting healthy at the right time. So more reinforcements will be coming. Where does Drake Greenlaw fit in? I'm of the mind that Azeez Al-Shaair should stay exactly where he's at because he's playing so well. And it's the way that they're using Hufanga, Tart, Ward, all 3 of them on the field, playing Hufanga a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage so he's not out to dry on coverage or anything like that. And Jimmy Ward giving them that flexibility. They're improving. Everybody's getting back a little bit healthier. Just a little bit more from that defensive line, please. No disrespect to Arden Key, but that's not the name that I want right behind Nick Bosa in terms of pressures and getting to the quarterback.
I'm going to say this. What the defense have shown, They are better in marriage than they are single.
Okay.
If we want to use it like that. They are
Okay.
better in marriage because when they have that partner is the 49ers offense. So when
Mm-hmm.
they have that partner that's able to take care of their responsibilities, time of possession, don't turn over the ball, when they're put points on the board, when they're able to take care of those responsibility, that makes the defense a better partner themselves. And that showed against the Rams game. We could throw the Jaguars game out the window if everybody wants, because that is the Jaguars. Look what they did against Matthew Stafford and the Rams offense. Darrell Henderson was having a fantastic season up to that game. Cooper Kupp is having a fantastic season. Same with Matthew Stafford. He's been flirted around with MVP. The defense allowed 10 points. Realistically, 3 points and then a garbage time touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So they are great in marriage that way. Look what they did against the Jaguars. Same thing. Same thing. Now, when I say they're not good on their own, being single, they're a little wild. They could give up some points. They could give up some first downs. They don't know how to be independent. They need that partner to show them the right way. They want to do their own thing. They give up the points. They don't create the turnovers. They don't make the offenses, feel a little pressured. The opposing offenses feel a little pressured when the 49ers offense is doing their thing. So they are really good in marriage. Not the best being single. Not the best at being independent.
Right. And I think that's what we were complaining about is one game the defense will show up, one game the offense will show up. One game the offense will show up, one game the defense won't show up. And when you have those, like you said, in marriage, right? Like you're keeping them like realistically, that Jaguars game was over after the first drive. They get the field goal and they go 3 and out, and that Jaguars defense had to run right back out there again. It just felt like the game was over like that quickly.
Yep.
And that is what you mean right there is if the offense is chewing that clock, keeping the defense on the sideline, and then that defense gets right off the field and puts that defense back on the field, then that's it. I mean, it's a snowball effect. And that's really what happened in a lot of games in 2019. So in that way, that's where they're trying to get back to the 2019 vibes, as much as I dislike that whole narrative or thought process. But that's what they're trying to get back to is choking teams off by controlling the ball, imposing your will, and then putting you up against the wall very quickly. And then in 2019, things snowballed fast. When the 49ers got rolling and they were winning games, they would snowball on you and the game would be over really fast. That's what we kind of saw in the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, that's closest to 2019 vibes as I could think of.
We got this donation from Mike S. Do you guys think Debo has this breakout season if Mostert doesn't get injured? That's a great question.
I think he does, only because when I was at training camp, this was all we saw, and they continue to force feed him the ball, and even when he wasn't being force fed, right? Like, and what I mean by force fed is I should change that. Manufacture the touches, because they did manufacture the touches for him, but you could see that he was different. Like Jason Verrett, who we were all excited about, would go up against him one-on-one, and he would bake him. And that was something that we talked about was a deficiency in Deebo Samuel's game is, man, can he run routes down the field? Can he beat press coverage? He was whipping Jason Verrett. So for me, I felt like it was already like, as I watched him for 2 weeks while I was at camp every day, I was like, man, look at this. And he continued to stack those days and it translated right away. So I would say, yes, I didn't see it before camp, but after I walked out of camp and it didn't matter who was the quarterback, whether it was Lance or Garoppolo, when you watch the reps one-on-one, Deebo Samuel looked like a different player on top of the fact that they manufactured touches and want to get him involved so much.
I'm going to say yes as well, because when you take out a Raheem Mostert of this offense, yeah, you're going to be affected in some way. But what was still happening? You were still getting 100-yard gains from an Elijah Mitchell. You got an 89-yard game from a Trey Sermon when they played against, that was the Packers. So they were still getting production from the ground game. But I do think what's the difference with Deebo Samuel is we're seeing his targets being a little more downfield early on in the season. His big games, he's running in-cut routes that's putting him in a lot of these routes aren't run vertically. He's running at a horizontal angle, so he's running full speed, hit him in stride, and then he continues his momentum and bursts upfield. So what we're seeing with Deebo Samuel this year is those downfield targets that he didn't necessarily have in 2020. He had some in 2019, but he didn't really have them in 2020. In 2020, it was a lot of behind the line of scrimmage stuff. So now that we're seeing Deebo Samuel past 10 yards on these posts, on these in breaking routes, we're seeing him being utilized to his potential. This is something we've always said is, okay, I want to see Deebo Samuel doing his whole yak yards after catch as a downfield receiver, because now those, 12 those passes that are caught at 12 yards past the line of scrimmage, he's turning those into 30-yard plays, opposed to an end around pitch pass behind the line of scrimmage, turning those into 15. So he's able to basically double his net value, being targeted downfield a little more. And I think, like Jason said, he was there in camp, and I think that was the plan all along for Shanahan and this offseason. And even with Raheem Mostert out, they're getting a very good production from the running back position. Would it probably be different and maybe more production if Mostert was in there? Yeah, probably, just because what he's able to provide as a running back is just insane. You don't really see it. It's just, you wish you had the longevity or the durability with him. But yeah, I think you still see it. I think you still see this crazy season by Deebo Samuel for sure.
Yeah, and another thing is like, don't discount Debo being motivated by hearing what everybody says. And I'm
Yep.
not talking about what people say on Twitter or anything like that. I'm talking about the people who are like actual analysts and people who want to discount them, glorified running back, extension of the run game, all those things. Seemed like he came to play with a chip on his shoulder, and that was a little bit different. And I think that that's a big motivating factor as well too, coupled with the fact that Kyle Shanahan clearly wanted to get him involved, which is what we saw pretty much all in camp. But yeah, Raheem Mostert being there, obviously you wouldn't have Deebo Samuel in the backfield as much. So obviously that wouldn't be happening if he was there. So, I mean, that's all purpose yards. But I think right now as a receiver, you could see the steps. You could see it happening in camp, and it's just translated over into the season. He's been an absolute joy to watch this year.
Absolutely. It's been fun, especially, the chain that I want to get in the cubic zirconium with the gold plated, because that's what my budget tells. I probably can't even afford that in cubic zirconium. So,
Yeah, that's a big
that's
a big chain, man.
That's a big chain. My neck hurts. But yeah, I love to see it from a guy like Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
Defensive MVP. Who is that?
Nick Bosa. I mean, my goodness, man. He's not even fully recovered from the ACL. What on earth? I mean, he's already tied his career high in sacks, the tackles for loss, and the guy's in a chokehold every third rep. And I mean, think about this. I literally just told you that, like, right now, the second pass rusher on this line is Arden Key right now at this point, with the way that he's been playing the last 3 games. And Nick Bosa has just been incredible. I mean, it's one thing to be the man when nobody sees it coming, or not that nobody sees it coming, right? As a rookie, you can't expect him to immediately be what he was in 2019. But now everybody knows where to go with no D Ford on the other side, no real second pass rusher that you really have to pay attention to. And he's still being double teamed, and for him to still be producing, and he's still not all the way back from the ACL, man. Whew, Nick Bosa is incredible, man.
Does he get 20? 7 games to go. Does he get 20?
7 games to go, and he's got what, 10?
He's got 10.
Ooh, he needs like a 3-sack game against Kirk Cousins, man. This is if he gets like 3 this week, then we're talking. We're on our way right there. On one of my podcasts, I believe Tim Sprinkles of the Denim Dungeon podcast, shout out to Tim and Brian. Actually, his bold prediction was that Nick Bosa was going to break the record, the single season record. For a few weeks, it looked like he was going on his way there, but as things kind of changed, with the way that people were chipping him, and he gets no holding calls at all. Obviously, he's tapered off a little, but a 3-sack game right here against Minnesota, I don't have him right back in the thick of it with a chance to do the impossible at this point.
You know what? I'll take a 5-sack game against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks the week follow. Give me a 5-sack game against that horrible offensive line, and then have Russell Wilson request the trade right after that game. Hey, this is it. I'm done. I'm going to finish off these 5 games with you guys, and I'm done. I would love that. We got a donation here from Sean. Thought, put Shire on the edge opposite of Bosa, speed with linebacker mentality, help with screens and QB rollouts, Greenlaw back at his spot. Bang, bang.
Problem is that that's what they wanted Ebukam to be. And no disrespect to him, but that just hasn't worked out in the way that they thought it would. I mean, I thought they really thought that it would be somebody who could mirror kind of what D4 does and have D4 be a specialist. Unfortunately, D4 is injured, but the Ebukam thing has not really materialized. The only problem with this is if you have him on the edge, he's so good at diagnosing in the middle of the field runs. And I think that's really where my discrepancy with Alshire and Greenlaw goes, right? So obviously Greenlaw is better in man coverage. We all know that, former safety. We get that. But what Alshire is doing, and he has 14 tackles for loss per Sys Data Hub, is he diagnoses the run and he hits the gap and he hits it hard. He's a thumper. And I think that he's not really a pass rusher in that way. So, I mean, I get the idea, Sean. I absolutely get the idea. But I think that the 49ers are going to have to find a way to generate pressure another way, because I think what Alshire does is invaluable in the run game, and he's so good at diagnosing those holes and hitting them and knocking guys out. Like, I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he had a pretty good game against the 49ers, right? But there was like 2 or 3 times where Alshire knocked him in the backfield and just like and just sent him back. So, I mean, that should just go to show you that, like, Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in the game right now because Derrick Henry's hurt. And he's literally destroying defenses. He literally just destroyed probably the best defense in football right now, the Buffalo Bills this past week. But Alshire was putting him on his back. So I think that it would be too hard to move him over and turn him into a pass rusher when what he does and what he's suited to do with his skill set is stop the run.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean. Does this thought come from Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys and seeing what his speed is doing for that defense, transitioning him from inside to say, hey, yeah, they lost Lawrence, and now you're going to go play edge and just go do what he did as a game record with his speed, essentially. I kind of think that's where that thought comes from. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sean. But yeah, it would be fun to see Azeez go off the edge a little bit, but my preference would to see him inside. That his just instincts is fantastic for such a young player that hasn't really had the time spent at the inside linebacker position in the NFL. And remember, this is a guy, Lane Kiffin, basically wrote a personal letter to all 32 teams saying he's going to be a star. He was up for the top linebacker award his year before going out, and then he had the knee injury, and that's where he became an undrafted free agent. Also, I think it was because of his size. Some scouts thought he was a little too small to be inside linebacker in the NFL. But he's showing that he's more than capable to be basically Batman's Robin. And Batman, you consider being Fred Warner at that point. He's showing to be more than capable of that. And you'll take that at that point. It takes a lot of stress under Fred Warner. And that's basically what you need, since his workload is being stretched out so much like his rookie season was. And that's why we're not seeing the Fred Warner of last year, just because his responsibilities aren't the same. So if his responsibilities aren't the same, you need someone else to kind of pick up the other roles. And Azeez, I think he's doing that at a higher rate than what Drake Greenlaw would do. He gets there faster. His instincts are just much higher.
Yeah, and my issue with my case for Alshire staying in his spot and not bringing Greenlaw in. Yeah, I mean, different look and keep your best players on the field. Yeah, I get that part, right? But in my eyes, I asked Jason if I should start Ayuk or DK last week, and he told me DK. I mean,
everybody would tell you DK at that point.
Yeah, I mean, listen, roll with the punches, bro. It is what it is, man. I mean, and look, if I give you fantasy advice, don't just take it as gospel. Just take it as one piece of information and make your own decision. Mm-hmm. Anyway, in terms of this with Alshire and Greenlaw, my reason for going with Alshire is too many times Greenlaw has found himself in positions where he's not in a position to make the tackle, out of his run gap, and you saw it happening in 2020, but everybody kind of chalked it up to, hey, 2020 is a horrible season for everybody. And it's like, hey, man, whatever, throw it out the window. This team was in shambles. Everybody was injured. Okay, cool. You could do that. But the regression has been happening for a little while. And I think that a lot of what people love about Greenlaw is still tied to 2019. And then we fast forward to 2021. He only played in one game. Everybody talks about the pick six. Okay. But then when you look on the film, again, he's doing it again, where he's jumping out of his gap and guys are running right through his hole. And honestly, Fred Warner isn't somebody who calls people out, but it's on film, him turning around and looking at Greenlaw like, what are you doing, dude? Like, just stay in your gap. And that is not able to happen. You have to be able to just maintain your gap. And even if you can't make the tackle, make him go somewhere else to where another defender is. And jumping into a gap that Fred Warner's already in, That's something that you don't expect from somebody who's been on this team for this long and has his shot, right? So I think right now, when you're talking about how Al-Shaair is playing, you have to just stick with who's playing better at this point, and he just is at this point. It's hard to get Al-Shaair off the field, man. But I understand the whole idea of getting your best players on the field because it seems like that's what they're trying to do with Hufanga. He's not going to take Tart snaps away, but he'll be on the field with all three of them because he is sort of that hybrid safety linebacker. You don't really want to put him in single high situations where he would have to use his speed, which is probably his only negative. He plays with instinct. But I get the whole idea about trying to put your best players on the field. So I'm not knocking the idea, Sean. I'm just giving you my opinion.
I also want to hear your thought on this. You said Nick Bosa is the MVP of the defense. Mm-hmm. No one's going to argue that as that being in the answer. But what if someone gave you the answer of Jimmy Ward is the MVP of this defense? Look at the game he missed, gave up 300 yards passing against Colt McCoy. The back end secondary had no idea what the hell they were doing. Communication was completely off. The run filling wasn't the same, especially on screens. James Conner just went completely off. And now you see him in there 2 games in a row, 2 interceptions on Stafford, one of them for a pick 6. And, Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked good all season. So we'll take that for a grain of salt. But this defense, it looks different with Jimmy Ward in there.
I think I would change it from MVP to leader. And I think that's what Jimmy is more than anything, right? Because we found out that they held a team meeting before the Rams game. It was him, Armstead, Fred, 3 guys who are tenured, spoke to the defense at the team hotel. But I think that there you go, Ben. He's the leader, man. And I think that all that communication stuff is important, right? Because Hufanga and Tavon Wilson, they were getting beat over the top. Hufanga was, going through his rookie stuff, which is it's not a problem for me, right? I have no problem with rookies getting through reps and understanding things and seeing things, right? It's the veterans when you're getting whipped. Like now you're really not offering anything because what are you learning? You should have already known stuff like that. But when he's there, the flexibility of being able to drop him down, cover the slot corner, just in case let's say KK is not on the field, and then keeping Tartan Hufanga on the back end, that stuff is invaluable in what he can do. And I think that if you would change it, I wouldn't change it. I would change it from MVP to leader because what he brought, that energy, and finally, getting those interceptions, which I'm tired of hearing about it because I literally make the point over and over, and I feel like I'm belaboring it. You can't get interceptions when they don't throw the ball your way, and you can't. And sometimes, and both of those interceptions were freak accidents, and that's something that happens on interceptions as well too, right? The first one's an arm punt where it's literally he's just standing there waiting for it to come down to him. Nothing that he necessarily did in terms of like fighting for the ball. There you go. And then the other one was a drop literally right off of the hands of Higbee, right? So if you notice, right, Trayvon Diggs, everybody loves Trayvon Diggs, right? Interceptions. He's penalized a ton, and he's giving up a ton of yards as well, too. People are testing him, so he's getting interceptions. Now, good, he's ball hawking, and that's great, but you can't get interceptions when they don't test you, and I think that that's what Jimmy Ward has brought. Would you rather have a guy who's getting the ball taken away all the time or getting beat over their head for touchdowns, or the guy who, when you see him covered against somebody, you're like, man, I'm not even going to throw it his way, anything like that, because I know that he's gonna wipe that whole route out. And for me, I would rather take the solid floor of knowing that you're never going to test Jimmy Ward if he's caught one-on-one. You're on mute.
Got you. I realized that when I was about to say something, so I did the awkward open the mouth face. How different would this game look, especially where you have Thielen? Conklin's okay. He's not terrible. He's okay in the red zone, as well as Justin Jefferson. Like, how different would this single game look if Jimmy Ward wasn't on the field for this defense?
Yeah,
I feel like they would be struggling. They would be struggling a lot.
I would be afraid. I'm not afraid of the secondary. I'm just afraid of individual matchups, okay? Like Justin Jefferson against Josh Norman, that scares me. And I feel a little bit better about Mosley on Thielen if that's the case, right? Or I would actually feel a little bit better if Mosley's on Jefferson as well, too. But Jimmy Ward being there, you can shade him over a little bit more, have him play underneath. And he is so smart and understands what other teams are trying to do that's the reason that he's always in good position. So Jimmy Ward not being in this game, I would say, oh, my goodness, man, I don't know what's about to happen. Him and Tart are the 2 smartest guys on that back end, and they understand what teams are trying to do, so they're able to take things away. But yeah, I mean, it's just individual matchups. Like if you get Josh Norman one-on-one on Justin Jefferson's baking every single corner in front of him. So it's not a knock at Josh Norman as much as it is that I know that Justin Jefferson is playing well. And right now, Kirk Cousins is probably playing some of the best football of his life, if not the best football of his life, in terms of, like, he has 2 interceptions right now. He's just playing very well. So I kind of wish this game was like a primetime game so we could perpetuate the narrative that he's not good on primetime or anything like that.
Monday night game. Perfect. It would have been perfect.
Yeah. Right. Like, flex that one out. I mean, for the first time, the 49ers were flexed out of a game and it wasn't their fault. It's Seattle's fault. But yeah, I just individual matchups scare me because Justin Jefferson is just so good. Literally, Jair Alexander is one of the better corners in the league. Got baked. He's just beating everybody. So that's the problem. And that's it, Cesar. That's it. If the pass rush is not going to get there and Kirk Cousins is allowed to just be there and just go for it and he's going to have time, it's going to get hairy. Mosley should shadow Jefferson and Norman on Thielen. I would be great with that. I just don't think that they do that in terms of shadowing because even, when Salah was there, Sherm didn't go, shadow people or anything like that. And
very rare.
If you remember in 2019, it was Ahkello Witherspoon who gave up the 1 touchdown to Stephon Diggs in that game, and then he got pulled like right there. So I mean, it's hard to have them change that. But yeah, I would love to see Mosley on Jefferson. I would take my shot there as opposed to having Norman on him. But both of those guys scare me, and it's not going to be an easy touch. I mean, it's not going to be something that's easy for these guys on the other side.
See, this is the thing. Anyone could say Bosa, and you're absolutely right every time. The kid's a generational freak. If Bosa's not in this game, what would you say? That
I'd be scared to death. They're gonna pick apart.
Same thing. There's no pass rush. That's what I would say. Yep. There is no pass rush. The pass rush isn't getting home, and Kirk Cousins stood back there, built a house in Northern California, and found Justin Jefferson eventually, or Adam Thielen eventually. That's what I would be saying.
Or just dump it down to Dalvin Cook if everybody's rushing up and everything as well too. I mean the play action, everything that they kind of build off of Cousins is amazing off play action. And if they're able to get that run game going in any way, then things start to get hairy because now you have guys pressing up a little bit more. That's when those shots happen down the field a little bit further because one thing that really is kind of never spoken about with Kirk Cousins, and you kind of saw it this week, but it's actually littered all over his career. He's actually pretty good when there's somebody in his face. He actually stands in there and throws the ball well. Like that touchdown he threw to Justin Jefferson, he literally had a guy knocking him to the ground, and he just Jefferson's down there somewhere, and he threw it up into a spot where only Jefferson can get it, and he scored a touchdown off of it. So this is going to be I'm really juiced for this game because it's going to be it's much closer than it was in 2019. I mean, I know you said you were nervous when you went to that game, Leo. I knew for a fact the 49ers were going to be moving on. I never really had it in inkling.
It was the financial that I've spent going to that game. Yep, the financial investment that made me nervous. Right. I wasn't necessarily dude. It was. Remember Quan coming back and they released that video, the hype video.
Yeah.
Ooh, fun times. Let's get back to it, Kyle. Come on, Jimmy. Let's get back to it. Fun times, man. Jeez. When did this be the kickoff to just having those vibes all over again? And we'll see. What do you trust more in this game? Right now, we're just talking at this point. What do you trust more, like man coverage or zone coverage against this Vikings team?
I think it's got to be a little bit of both. I mean, you have to if the pass rush isn't getting home before, then you have to start sending some different fire blitzes and things like that. And that's some of the stuff that you can't run when Ward and Hart are not out there. And I think that's what people don't understand. It's like, okay, you want the rookies to play, but you can't run the exotic stuff on the back end. Oh, you know the answer to that question, Ben. You know the answer to that question. But that's just some of the stuff that Hufanga is a rookie, so you can't really like leave him out there to dry or anything like that, right? Because he you can't run that exotic stuff because he has to be able to cover on the back end. Now Ward and Hart are there. Now you can do some of those more exotic things. And if 4 is not going to get there, then send 5, send 6, because on the back end you guys are going to be all right with Fred underneath and those other guys locking up if they're playing well enough.
Yeah, and it's funny that how we got to this whole marriage topic, and they say that that Ward and Tart, they fight like an old married couple back out there. They have so much experience together to where you can do those exotic looks to where they could kind of less communication to each other and still know what the hell each players are doing when it wasn't that when they weren't in there. That's where we saw just the lack of communication within the defense. But yeah, if you get a guy like Hufanga in there, maybe you do run a little bit more zone. The thing is, I think it's great to run the zone against this team because I don't trust Norman to be man on man on either Thielen or Jefferson. But I would like some type of. I don't want to see soft zone.
Yeah.
That's what I don't want to see. Because now if you're playing soft, the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, they're going to take those 5-yard outs, 5-yard ins, 10 out of 10. They'll take that all day long. You'll see his completion percentage being at 85%. Just don't play soft zone. Just mix it up. You got to mix it up against a smart team like this. Just don't play soft zone. That's it. That's
Yeah,
all
and
I
just
got.
shade somebody over on Justin Jefferson because my goodness, he's good. Like it's so crazy. You brought it up. You go from Stephon Diggs to Justin Jefferson. It's just like, what on earth? How? I mean,
Two of the
that's
best route runners in the game.
right, and that's literally good scouting right there. That is literally like, I'm not gonna put Justin Jefferson ahead of Stephon Diggs right now because I believe that much in him, but Justin Jefferson is making the case right now for being one of the best in the league, and in May next year, very well be that we have to talk about Justin Jefferson as the top 5 guy.
That's who I wanted the 49ers to draft. Well, at first I wanted CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb was my A, and
But
Justin
he was a
Jefferson
slot
was my
guy,
B.
Leo. He was
I
a
didn't
slot
care.
guy. No. But Justin Jefferson was a slot guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's the narratives out of the draft. DK Metcalf can't run routes because of a 3-cone, and Justin Jefferson was a slot guy, so you can't really draft him too high. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Watching Justin Jefferson also just aggravates me because I see the
Pettis.
Dante Pettis.
Yeah.
His whole rookie season, and then Justin Jefferson comes in, and we're like, hey, that's Dante Pettis, and it just never. Let's not go down that road.
That's all right. I cry every single time Terry McLaurin makes a contested catch. So we're right there, lock and step, bro.
Let's see. What do you guys think? Thank you, Carlos, for the donation. What do you guys think they'll finish in these remaining games?
I mean, the schedule
7
opens
games
up.
left. Yep.
Yeah, the schedule opens up. I don't like looking too far down, right? Because
I do. I always do.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
See, but the thing is we went into
You're
the
not
season
that guy,
like,
pal.
you are that guy, pal. We went into the season just like writing in Sharpie. Oh, this game, and it's like they turn out to be losses, and this league is so week to week. But whatever. For this exercise, let's go ahead. Right, 7 games. I would say they're going to be in the 5-2, at worst 4-3 range right here. And that is what's going to put them into the playoffs. But you know what you've got to do, right? You got to go into Seattle and you have to finish the job. Get rid of them. They're already imploding. Seahawks Twitter is in shambles. Finish the job. Go in there and finish them off. But we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. If the 49ers come out and they win this game the way that I believe they will, spoiler alert, then things start to trend in the right direction because you still have games with Atlanta, the Texans, who just beat the Titans somehow. The Titans without Derrick Henry now, because that game doesn't look as daunting as it once did, especially now that they're so one-dimensional at this point. So, again, week to week, things change. If you would have looked a few weeks ago, you would have said, oh, my God, the 49ers have to play the Titans. Well, Derrick Henry's running everybody over. Well, that's not that team that's going there forward. So I'll say 5-2, 4-3 at worst. And the 49ers actually find a way to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 5-2 as well. I'm not gonna be Dante Whitner and say 7-0. It's the NFL.
Jesus.
Based off what we've seen from this 5-5 team, there's no way I'm gonna say 7-0. Not to beat a dead horse, but on Javi and I's podcast, I did say that they were gonna go 3-1 in the month of November. So I have a lot riding on this game against the Vikings so that they could finish 3-1 in the month of November. But I'm gonna say 5-2, just because it's the NFL and that there is some tough matches in there. A short week going to Tennessee. Yeah, they're trying to figure out their footing without Derrick Henry. We thought they did when they played the Rams, but it appears they didn't. The Rams game could be tough, as Sean has the 49ers, splitting with the Rams here. It could be tough, but are the Rams in a situation where they can't move up or move down? If they're in that situation, they just might rest an old veteran like Matthew Stafford. So we don't know yet since it's the last game of the season. Seahawks, like you said, cut the chicken's head off. Cut the chicken's head off and hold it by the feet. That's what you got to do with the
Slay
Seahawks.
the beast. Slay the beast.
That's what you got to do.
It would be so great to go in there, stomp them, and contribute to that team completely blowing up and starting over. And we could say, I did this to you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Cut the chicken's head off there in Seattle. Falcons, you better, it's another bird to cut the head off. I'm acting like I'm a hunter for some reason.
Yeah.
But it's I'm from Georgia apparently now.
Oh
But
man.
it's you just got to take care of business against the other teams, the other ones you face. They're teams that you should be on paper. They're probably going to be favored for all of these games besides the Rams one, depending on that situation. They will probably be favored for 6 out of these 7 games. So go 5-2. You're in the playoffs. Division seems too far of a stretch at this point. You need too much to happen since it's 2 teams in front of you rather than just one. But go 5-2, get in the playoffs, and who knows? You know, a West Coast team hasn't won 3 straight road games and went to the Super Bowl. Be the first one to do it.
Well, I think that Rams
now
game,
I'm getting too far.
yeah. The Rams game is going to mean something, I think, because I don't think the Rams are going to be competing for that number 1 bye. But they are going to be competing for seeding, trying to figure out if they have a home game and that type of thing. And the 49ers are absolutely going to have to try to win that game to either solidify their position or something like that. Like, I don't think that's going to be a meaningless game, man. I just think that right now it's pretty clear that there's going to be, it's either going to be Green Bay or Tampa Bay that are going to be fighting for that number 1 seed, which is the 1 bye. And everybody else is just going to be jockeying for position to make sure that they get at least 1 home game. And I think the Rams are going to be involved in that game. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a bad take, honestly, to say that, especially considering that we know that Sean McVay is little bro, and I thought it was Jared Goff. It's not. You just little bro, man. Like it don't matter. Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Kurt Warner. It don't matter, bro. You are little bro as long as you're on the sideline across from Kyle Shanahan. You are little bro until things change. So, yeah, I mean that's not a bad take by Vader.
Well, just lead the Rams into the playoffs, and Sean McVay doesn't know how to take the lead, or excuse me, into halftime, and Sean McVay doesn't know how to win a game when trailing at halftime. He's actually winless in his career when trailing at the half. So that's all you got to do. Just dominate the first 2 quarters of the game, and then boom, you beat the Rams.
Open and shut case. Football is not as complicated as people make it seem, and right now, the one stat that we keep dropping on the Sprint Right Option podcast with Andrew Pasquini, happy birthday to my buddy, Andrew Pasquini. Make sure you get out there and you say happy birthday to that man because he is the GOAT. The 49ers are 5-0 when they outscore a team. 5-0. Boom.
Okay. So in order to go 7-0 in these final games, they have to outscore the opponent in those 7 games.
If they have more points when the scoreboard hits 0 on the clock, they have a very good chance to win that game.
Damn, dude. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, man. I mean,
that's smart.
Mind-blowing stuff. Yeah, our analytics department, I think Jesse's in here. Our analytics department, held by Jesse Rodriguez, is working tirelessly to give you the cutting edge of analytics and how to win football games. This is the new way.
Okay, so outscore opponents, you'll win according to the 5-0 mark. I like that. So they just got to keep it going. Shout out you guys. Shout out Jesse, as you said. You guys are working hard in the analytics. That's the first time I'm hearing of that stat. That's huge. That's huge. I don't know why people aren't talking about it more. But,
big stat, man.
We're talking about running the ball is the key to win. Time of possession, not turning. They're saying that's the key to win. No, outscore your opponent. That's how you're going to win.
Have more points than the other team when time expires, and you'll have a very good chance
Jesse, no.
Yes, he's right. He's absolutely right. After that Arizona game, I was fed up. Absolutely. But yeah, he's right. Our analytics department is working tirelessly to give you all of the numbers, man. And Jesse is, I mean, not only does he have the best profile picture on YouTube, Man Bear Pig of South Park, but he's also working tirelessly to give you the analytics. 2-0 since this bozo said the season was over. 2-0 since getting rid of Jalen Hurd, and 5-0 when this team outscores the other team.
Jalen Hurd. Wow, I really wanted that to hit. You want to say it again, Terry McLaurin?
I miss you, Terry. Hey, buddy. In an alternate universe, you are a 49er, and that's just how I'm gonna play it in my mind.
Well, we could ignore the Terry McLaurin, drafting him instead of Jalen Hurd. We would have had flying cars. Levi's would have been a floating stadium inside water. It's in a fishbowl, a floating stadium in a fishbowl. If they drafted Jamel Dean to play corner.
Man,
that's where they would be right now.
Or society would be harmonious. You could be able to leave your doors open, unlocked. No questions asked if the 49ers didn't allow Tampa Bay to jump up and get Tristan Wirfs and they drafted him.
But there was a
now,
3-tech on board. There was a 3-tech on the board. What are you
now
talking about?
Now we're just getting sad.
There was a 3. You have to go with a 3-tech. Who doesn't draft a 3-tech? Come on now. That's what we do. That's what we do in Santa Clara.
Mind-blowing stuff going on right here.
in Santa Clara, it's tech, and it's 3 techs. You get it? You see the tech and tech, 3 techs.
Wow, man! All right, now we're getting to big brain stuff, and yeah, I think now's a good place to end this, Leo, because I definitely have to give Avery a bath and everything, because now we're getting too far out of the big brain stuff.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to sit outside and watch the tree.
There you go.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys. If you're still chimed in, make sure you like the video, because that helps the algorithm, helps out Jason, helps out myself. Whichever channel you're watching this, make sure you comment, give us a thumbs up, and just subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. At this point, I don't know what you're doing if you haven't subscribed, so go ahead and do that. I appreciate all you guys, and we'll talk with you next week.
Yes, sir.